Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to Jacko Car. Welcome to the first of 3 nights of pre-season action. On Saturday, it will be the draft. Tomorrow is a test race featuring most of last year's field. But tonight, we've got the reserves, a few from last year, and some of the drivers who are hoping to get picked in the draft in tonight's showcase event around a track we should all be familiar with now. It's the Red Bull Ring for the Austrian Grand Prix. Alongside me, Luke Etheridge, is Jacko once again. And Jacko, a lot of drivers tonight will be determined to show that they really deserve a seat, especially as we have 3 of the team leaders racing tonight.
Yeah, like you say, very important for the guys to get a good show in tonight and try and change the mind of a few of the team leaders. Unfortunately, 2 of them can't be with us. Jordan's decided not to race, and Thomas is racing tomorrow in the 50% at Silverstone. But like you say, all of last season's, or most of last season's reserves and the new drivers coming in, they're all in this one tonight. So it should be, hopefully, quite entertaining with everybody trying to win the race and make a statement.
Yeah, they'll be wanting to show off what they can do. You can see some of the settings we've got here. It's your standard 50% race, and it says 18 minutes qualifying, but this is not going to be your normal 18 minutes qualifying. Some of you with a bit of a long memory, cast your mind back to the days of the old-fashioned one-lap F1 qualifying where everyone got the track to themselves. That is what they are doing tonight, and this can really cause quite a mixed-up grid.
Yeah, sorry, Luke, I'm just getting this tweet sent off and I'll be with you and I'll explain it to the viewers there. Live for the showcase event at Austria.
Yeah, hopefully we'll get a few people joining us for what I'm sure will be a fantastic race. As you said, there's no points on the line, but everyone wanting to show off their skills before possibly getting picked on Saturday, and to make sure that they're in top form for next week with the season starting, where Owen will be back on Thursday, same time, same place, for the first round around Bahrain. If you weren't with us last season, if you're not familiar with the Jacko car, imagine if F1 and NASCAR sort of had a love child together. You've got F1 cars, you've got a NASCAR style point system, and that does mean that you will be guaranteed to have 5 drivers still in a chance with winning the championship at the Championship 5, the last race of the season. But that is a long way away. All these guys will be thinking about tonight is just getting this one lap in qualifying absolutely perfect.
And another talking point from last season was the simulation damage. I know a lot of leagues don't use it, and we had a lot of questions about it, but it seemed to work. It calmed a few drivers down. It then enraged a few others, so some were a bit more aggressive and learnt how to use the system, but it worked. But anyway, as you said, the major change for this season is the qualifying back to one lap shootout essentially. Drivers must complete an out lap, an in lap, and obviously a fast lap, not in that order. The idea of it when we get into the actual racing season is the fastest drivers, or the ones at the top of the championship, will go out last, so they will have all eyes on them, all the pressure to try and set a good lap, and if they invalidate, they're just going to start from the back of the grid.
Yeah, that is going to be so crucial indeed, just to keep it nice and clean. Will we see the drivers maybe just save a bit in qualifying, not quite go 100%, knowing that if they invalidate, they're not going to get a chance, or will they go straight out, guns out, to try and get that pole position? We will have to wait and see. We have got the list, actually, of the drivers that will be going out in this qualifying session. We've got some of the faster guys later on. In fact, Pete, Speed Knighton, he'll be going out very shortly. And quite annoyingly, my laptop has decided to cut off the bottom of this picture, which is always fantastic. So I'd love to tell you who's going first, but technical difficulties and all that.
Risky Racer is going first. I'll fill in for you, and then Khalifa with 16 minutes and 15 seconds of qualifying left. And then there's a gap because one of the drivers couldn't race tonight. And then it's Jess, Arnold, J. Luke, Bill, Bazza, Crazy Flying Rob, SD Mats, Robo Jeep, who is now Newgarden, I haven't changed his name yet, Kyle, Riley, Iceman, Paul, John, MK Bourne, Yori, OKK, and Pete, who last season's champion, will go at last. Apparently it's a full qualifying session as well, Luke. What do we think about that?
Oh, that's always interesting. That's always makes things a bit more fascinating. I must say, it does look very dry out there at the moment on my screen, but yeah, maybe this is just F1 2020 being its usual fantastic self. But yeah. Be interested to see how this qualifying session does go indeed with all the drivers heading out.
You are right, it doesn't look very wet.
Unless it's raining towards the end of the session, and this is what we were talking about earlier on with one lap qualifying. You can get very lucky with the weather, or in the case of maybe a few of these drivers, very unlucky.
Yeah, and that's something that throughout the season could play a factor in deciding the championship or who advances from one playoff round to the next. It was a concern from a couple of the drivers when I was talking about it, but the majority of which, they're all behind it, they're all backing this new qualifying system. It's different, it's unique, and hopefully it brings up a couple of surprises.
Yeah, most definitely. Let's not forget there is bonus points available that you can get at the playoff stage for taking a victory, taking pole position, taking fastest laps, as well as also bonus points available for your team as well, depending on how your performance is doing. And the first man who's going to be going out to get this season underway is going to be Speed Risky, and he'll soon be able to guide us round on a lap of the Red Bull Ring, first used in Formula 1 way back in 1970 when it was a much more fearsome circuit as the Austria Ring. Raced there until 1987, came back in 97 as the A1 Ring, left F1 again, been on the calendar since 2014 as the Red Bull Ring. So DRS Open heading across the finish line now at about 185 miles an hour, braking hard for turn 1, slight lock up on the front but making the apex and not taking too much curb because that will definitely invalidate your lap. Then running down the hill, DRS Open again, very powerful at this circuit. Turn 2's just a simple kink before the heavy braking zone for turn 3. Clipping the apex fine there, but that can sometimes make it a bit tight and make it a bit difficult on exit as your car wants to rotate around. Turn 4 is an extremely tricky braking zone as you're heading downhill, but as we've seen in real life, provides plenty of opportunities for overtaking. Third gear through there, then all the way through turn 5, 6 and 7. This is where if your tyres are starting to wear out, you will really struggle around here. You need the downforce on your car working beautifully through 6 and 7. In turn 8, just a slight little flat right-hander. Now heading down past the pit entry, one of the most tricky you will see on the F1 calendar. Going through turn 9 at 150 mile an hour, braking hard down to 5th gear for the 10th and final corner. And Risky comes across the line with a 104.7. Seemed a fairly careful lap by Risky, but I think he just wanted to make sure that he did get that time in.
Yeah, and it's something that, again, you might see throughout the season. Drivers, do they want to go hard and try and get the fastest lap, get on pole, or do they want to just take a little bit more care and just make sure they qualify in the top 10 and then focus all their attention on the race? Here comes Khalifa around the final 2 turns in his black and red livery. Comes second last season, round the final turn, a little bit wide on exit. I don't think he's invalidated. Across the line he goes, and that is invalidated.
That is invalidated. So, that's already one of the drivers who's going to suffer, and that was a 103.9. So it just shows you the sort of pace he was showing. Unsurprisingly, everyone, obviously, it's one lap qualifying. You'd be daft not to go for the soft tyres. I must say, we've got a few more drivers out now. Who's going to be the next driver to set their lap?
Jess.
Yes, it is going to be Jess, going for a very, very bright pink car at the moment. Got Arnold, he'll be the next driver out on his out lap. But it's fair to say Jess, she had a few races last year where she showed some promise, but overall she'll be hoping for a better performance if she does get chosen in the draft on Saturday.
Yeah, Jess will be hoping for a space. She did a couple of good races last season, which she'll be relying on a little bit, trying to persuade some of the team leaders to pick her. She got a couple of P6s. But as you say, another bright livery, same as last season. Back in the 95 car again.
Yeah, she always likes showing off like true colours here. Very beautiful pink car, I must say. And who knows, maybe 2020.
Blue,
yeah, who knows, maybe 2020 will be the last year we see a pink car with Aston Martin replacing Racing Point next season. And there'll be a lot said about lots of certain drivers who might be heading to Aston Martin. I don't think we need to add any more to that as Jess comes around the final couple of corners now. She looks to have kept it clean so far. Don't think it'll be fast enough to beat Risky, but as long as she's clean, she'll definitely be ahead of Khalifa. And there we go for Jess. 106.553 in the end puts her into second position. Are now on his lap in that number 14. Quite a very fancy car indeed, with that sort of like grey and white combination. It looks almost like 90s McLaren style.
I was going to go with 2014 McLaren.
Ah, yeah, when
the two had a baby. Yeah.
Yeah, the all silver one. Yeah, I think I sort of like removed that one from my memory now. It was just that there was just sort of there that season. They got a couple of podiums at the start, but didn't do much else.
P3 in Australia. Yeah.
Yeah.
Arnold, by the way, the only driver to have a number change from last season. Of course, Esteban Ocon took the 31, which means it's not available in multiplayer cars. He now runs the 14, which he'll lose next season.
Yeah, maybe
he goes fastest.
Yeah, he might be able to take the number 5 over number 11 by the sound of things. But yeah, he does go fastest with a 104.594. Next, it will be J. Luke. He'll be the next driver that we'll see in that. Actually, very similar to the multiplayer car I've got. It's sort of like Lotus colours. British grey green with the yellow. He'll be hoping it's more like the Jim Clark Lotuses than the Kovalainen and Trulli ones. We'll see how he's doing so far. Looking pretty decent through 7 and 8, but he's just invalidated over the curve at turn 8, and that is how easy it can be. Fine margins. He'll be starting down at the back with Khalifa and maybe a few others. We've only had 5 drivers around so far, 2 of them already invalidated.
Yeah, and what you got to think about, this is the first time that the audience will be seeing this qualifying live, is Austria, when we come to it in the calendar, is round 10. It's a playoff race, so invalidating your lap could well ruin your chances of making it into the playoffs. And if, say, J. Luke was 10th, 11th in that sort of fun zone, you know, he's got it all to do in the race then.
Yeah, most definitely indeed. And there's been a few other rule changes this year. I know we've been talking a bit around the liveries. They're going to have to run a classic livery at one of the races. If any of you watched the 2025 lap championship, as Bill just goes fastest out of the 104.332, sorry. If you saw the 5 lap championship, you'll have seen a few cars, and yourself included, Jacko, running sort of classic liveries. But this season they're going to be forced to at one of the rounds, and they are going to have the option of having a secondary livery if they choose to.
Yeah, so slight change to the livery rule this season. They still run the same 10 for their main livery. They have to run 10 races. They have an optional 7 races where they can run a second livery. There is no third choice livery this year, but at round 8 in Monza, they can run a retro scheme, or they have to run a retro scheme to celebrate racing legends of the past. It can be from Formula 1, Le Mans, NASCAR, IndyCar, anything they want it to be. So that will be quite an exciting week 8.
Yeah, week 8, you want to make sure you don't miss that one, especially around Monza. It will always provide some good racing. Yeah. Bazza just missing out on a provisional front row slot then by 4 thousandths of a second. Oh. He goes into 3rd position for now. Next, it's going to be Crazy Flying Bob just coming through the second sector point at the moment with quite a crazy helmet design, I must say, but I've got to like there. I think he's got the Schumacher edition gloves on as well, car number 96. At the moment, heading around the final couple of corners. What sort of time can he do? Can he put any pressure on Bill? Can he be the first man to get cleanly into the 103s? He's not going to do that, and he actually goes into 5th position there, just ahead of Jess. Interestingly, that the 2 who've invalidated did look to be the quickest, but that just backs up what I was saying earlier. You've got to maybe leave a bit in hand just to make sure that you don't mess up and end up starting near the back.
Yeah, they may well be quick, but they can't track extend and be quick. They're just lucky it's only a test race and not something slightly more important like a round 10 Austria or a round 17 Brazil, where we'll be heading for the championship finale this season.
Yeah, most definitely indeed. And so something feels right about Brazil being a finale.
It does. It really does.
Estimat.
It's certainly been a lot more popular than China, put it that way.
I don't know why China gets all the hate, to be honest. I don't think it's a bad... There's worse circuits, let's put it that way. Estimat said just getting on the curb slightly out of the final corner. Didn't cost him in the end, though. 25 thousandths ahead of Bill. He takes provisional pole position. A sort of almost rocking Estonian flag colours there, but with a bit more purple. I'm not sure if that was intentional. Now we'll see what...
I think it might be, you know.
Maybe it is. My FIFA knowledge there coming into play.
He is running the wrong car number, though. The 21 that actually belongs to P. Esti should be in the 15. But not to worry.
Not to worry.
We can correct that before the start of the season.
Yeah, we've now got Speed Newgarden coming around the final corner. White and gold. We'll see what sort of time he can do, taking it very steady through the final corner. He doesn't want to be anywhere near an invalidation, and in the end goes into 6th, just behind his fellow speed stablemate. Next out, it will be Kyle. He's just coming through turn 4 now, and one of the features of this race... Yeah, definitely, very nice livery.
Very nice, yeah.
Is it one of the... Oh, very nice, with the sort of like almost monochrome UK.
20... Yeah, I think it's level 27 at the podium pass, isn't it? Something like that.
If it's level 27, it's going to be a long, long time before you see me and my level 4 skills getting that livery. He now comes around the final couple of corners. We'll see what sort of time this is for Kyle. Can he get into the 103s? Can he challenge them front drivers? It is going to be close. And indeed, he does go fastest by 1.5 tenths, so 104.152 for him. I was just about to say, this circuit, DRS is going to play a huge part in this race.
Yes, it will. I'm just looking at a slight mistake. There's 5 minutes 52 to go. Riley's out on track. Have they got the order wrong, Luke?
Well, yeah, we've got Riley and Iceman out on track at the moment, so not quite sure what's happening, but we've got two other drivers trying to set a hot lap at the moment, so it should have been Iceman and Riley, but oh well. We'll have to see how this goes, but anyway, moving on. Riley's now out, 5 minutes 30. They do seem to be leaving this rather late, so a few of these drivers might have to start rushing out on track. But anyway, Riley, he's one of the new drivers, and I've seen him in a few other leagues. He is definitely one to watch if he gets chosen this season. Can sometimes be a bit erratic, and whether that'll suit him in a one-lap qualifying session, we'll have to see. He's kept it nice and clean so far. Just one more corner to go. Taking as much as the curve as you dare on the entry there. This is going to be a very quick lap from Riley. There we go, just behind Kyle in the end in second. Next it's going to be Iceman, not too far behind. He flies round the final corner, but he has invalidated his lap, so he joins. It is Khalifa and J. Luke at the back of the grid.
Paul McGuinness is next in a very interesting colour scheme. Not sure what it's based on, but I like it. Chrome.
It's giving me sort of like Montoya helmet vibes, if I'm being honest. If you sort of replace the darker colour with like white or silver, then yeah, definitely Montoya helmet as well. On board there with Paul. We'll see what sort of time he can do in this very interesting colour scheme. And I've got to say, I do like the louder colour schemes on the F1 games. It definitely means that no one can use the excuse that they didn't see you when he's just invalidated coming out of the final corner. Oh. That would have been a very good lap indeed. Again, probably good enough for fastest.
And if he gets the seat, he's one of the championship favourites as well, is Paul. So that's how easy it is.
That is how easy it is.
So John is next.
Yeah, John next. It was all looking nice and good for him, but just a bit too much out of that final corner. It's very fine margins to whether you actually get to set a clean lap here, and it's still very fine margins at the top. We've had 10 drivers that have successfully set a lap. We've had 4 others that have attempted it. At the moment, it is Kyle fastest by 36 thousandths of a second. Estimates and Bill extremely close together on the second row, as are Arnold and Bazza on the third row of the grid at the moment. We'll see what John can do. The turquoise number 9 car driving around the final couple of corners now. What can Mr. John do in his car? He'll be looking to see what the drivers can do tonight. He goes into 9th position for now.
And that's a Chase Elliott inspired car from last night's All-Star race at Bristol in a NASCAR. He won $1 million.
Not a bad prize for a night's driving.
Not bad. And very short race as well.
Yeah, MK Bourne has already invalidated his lap it is showing here, so that's not ideal. I think he is still just pushing towards the end to see what sort of time he can set in a almost camo stealth-like livery with that bare carbon fibre.
Yeah. Of course, MK Bourne finished 5th in a championship last season. He crashed into the pit lane entry, a very Lewis Hamilton 2007 style, in China.
I think you'll like the being compared to Lewis Hamilton. I'm going to go with Pastor Maldonado because that feels a bit more harsh. But there we go, and that would have been a very good time indeed. But like quite a few others, not kept it clean, so he is going to be starting towards the back of the grid, and they are getting a bit lucky with some of the places here actually. You can see Paul 17th, Khalifa 16th, Iceman 15th, just gone on board with Speedy Racer, getting a lot of wheel spin out of turn 3, and I said that can happen sometimes coming through that corner. It's a very tight apex. I saw George Russell the other week saying that he tends to actually try and miss the apex of that corner just because he feels it gives him a bit more grip. And if it's good enough for an F2 champion, I'm certainly going to be trying to follow that advice.
Yes. Sorry, Luke, I'm just replying to the chat. They're all asking, is it 2 mandatory stops? Yes, it is. That hasn't changed.
Yes, it's still
That's one of the rules we kept.
Still 2 mandatory stops. That always makes it a bit more interesting.
Absolutely, and whilst we're on the topic, there is the Joker. The Joker returns, and we have one of those drivers is the Joker tonight, and that is MK Bourne.
Sorry to interrupt you there, Jacko. Okiki has gone off at turn 8. So I said it's a fairly straightforward, flat-out corner. He's found it anything but at the moment. That nice, almost Astro-style helmet. He's managed to not invalidate his lap. So as long as he gets around the final couple of corners and shouldn't really push around these because he would not be starting last. Just takes it nice and easy and cruises to the line, and he has taken it safe in the end. That'll put him into 12th position for now. That means we've only got one man left to set a lap, and it is the reigning Jacko Car champion. I think this series pretty much made for Pete Knighton. He's a very quick driver and doesn't mind sending it down the inside every now and then.
No, he certainly adapted well to it himself and Risky Racer. You could almost argue, like you say, the league was set up for them. It wasn't, but they adapted best to it, and Pete took advantage of that and won the championship in amazing style by 0.3 of a second to Khalifa in the end. Another nice Union flag livery as well on his car.
Yeah, he's gone more for his team colours, and he's gone purple in Sector 1. This is exactly what we expected of him. We'll stay on board now as he comes around towards the rest of the lap. We'll just sort of look back and you'll be able to... You can now actually look around the cars, which is always a nice feature on the game, as we can see the rear wing there. Just thought I'd test that out for the first time. Spectating on this game, it's always good when they add new things in for us commentators. So yeah, this will be the final lap. Will it be good enough to get Pete pole position, or will Kyle stay there? I think he'll just be aiming maybe to the quickest of his team, try and beat Visky, who's currently in 7th position. So where can Speed Knighton put himself in this nice Union Jack livery? Is he going to get into the 1:03s? We'll have to wait and see. No, it's not, and he does just displace Speed Visky. So that is 7th place for him, but it's Kyle who's gone fastest. Then Riley and Estimat, but it's going to be interesting to see the likes of Khalifa, Paul, and MK Bourne, everyone down there who didn't set a lap. They'll be wanting to fight their way up through the field in this race.
Absolutely. I feel like Khalifa's only here for the fun of it. Because he has retired after last season, but he's still very much part of the Jacko Car team. He helped get it off the ground, so he's a good lad, is Khalifa. Down in P17 now, he's got it all to do in the race.
Yeah, I feel like the competitive edge might just start coming through during this race. We'll have to wait and see. But there is your top drivers. We've got Kyle, Riley, Estimats, Bill in 4th, Arnold 5th, Bazza 6th, and 3 speed drivers with Knighton, Risky, Newgarden 7th, 8th, 9th, John in 10th, Crazy Flying Rob 11th, Jess 12th, Okiki, despite that spin, 13th, and then MK Bourne, J Luke, Speed Iceman, Khalifa, Paul and Speedy Racer didn't set a lap time, so they'll be hoping to fight their way up through the field. And if what we saw in the chat is right, they might have a bit more chance than they would in a normal dry race, because we might just be getting a bit of rain here.
We might even get a safety car, which is always nice. But just looking at the bottom 6 drivers, they're 6 of the fastest in the league.
Ooh, that's wet. That is wet.
That's
that
very
is
wet.
They've been looking at what the weather was like at the Red Bull Ring last weekend. That is extremely wet conditions. Who knows, it might even be wet enough to call for a safety car at some point. But I don't think there's going to be any debate what tyres everyone is starting on. It's going to be full wets all around.
Yeah, only a brave man would go out on the softs in this. And if there's one man who would do that, it'd be Risky Racer.
Risky by name.
To see what he does.
Risky by nature. I have actually driven quite a few times in intermediate tyres in conditions like this when I knew it was going to dry out very early on. So we'll have to see if anyone does go for that, because that might be a suggestion. But I think, given the fact that there is the 2-stop compulsory as well, it would be surprising if we do just see everyone go for the wet tyres. I think that'll be the best choice. But they'll all be picking their strategies. Now, not able to change a lot on the setup, let's not forget, because of Parc Ferme conditions in qualifying, only able to adjust the front wings ever so slightly. So here we go, underway for the formation lap, and I think it's going to be no surprise to see everyone on the full wet tyre. So you're going to want to be nice in at the front with a view that Kyle's got. You don't want to be Speedy Racer, Paul Khalifa, all those drivers down there that are just going to be driving into a wall of spray.
It's so wet as well, isn't it?
This is.
Yeah, so a great opportunity for the likes of Kyle and Riley starting on the front row. Like, providing they can keep it on the track, the team leaders are going to think, if he can keep it on the track in the wet, he can keep it on the track in the dry, I want him in my team. And on Saturday night they'll find out.
Yeah, most definitely. There's definitely always a possibility of rain at quite a few of these circuits, especially tomorrow night, where we'll see Austin Smith, the Badger Man, will be taking us through that tomorrow night alongside yourself, Jacko, around Silverstone. That's been known to have a few wet races now and then, but I think even us Brits would look at this weather and think, yeah, that's a bit damp.
This is atrocious. This is when you've turned up on Saturday qualifying in your t-shirt and then you forgot to bring your pack-mac because the weather forecast is wrong and you're soaked.
Yeah, most definitely. They are going to find it very difficult indeed. We've got some support here saying that Jess might end up winning the race. In these conditions, if you could just survive, I think you're going to have a very good chance. I think a few of the drivers that will have been wanting to show themselves off to some of the team leaders might be wishing it was a bit drier and a bit more normal conditions, because you don't want to make any mistakes in this weather. It's going to be very careful. No DRS, obviously, so the DRS trains that you get quite a lot around this circuit because of the 3 DRS zones won't be a big factor, but it's going to be interesting to see who ends up coming out number one in this race. You got any predictions, Jacko?
Carnage, my favourite, and hopefully we get it. I'm sure we will.
I think that's a given.
I'd like to think your likes of Iceman, Khalifa, Paul, they should be able to come through from the back with their slightly better drivers than the rest in terms of practice on the game and sweat, so watch out for them. Over to you.
Yeah, we'll find out soon enough. So the first of 2 pre-season Jacko car races is about to get underway as we wait for the lights to come on here at Austria. Just building up the tension now. We've got Kyle in the lead, Riley second, Estimat third, 19 drivers all hoping to get nice and feisty heading on the run down to turn 1. And it's looking like it's so wet, the rain might have got in the electrics for the starting lights.
This is Codemasters at their finest. Oh, here we go.
Here we go. Rob's left the session, unfortunately for him, but the 5 lights are on here at Austria, and we are underway. Jacob Carr is back, racing now. Riley has got a good start to get ahead of Kyle on the run down to turn 1, but it is exceptionally wet. Kyle's going to try and hold it off around the outside. He's going to go off the circuit, but I think he'll be able to manage it. We've seen a few cars drifting in the background there, but it is Kyle in the lead. Riley is second. Estimat's trying to get all over the back of him at the moment on the run down to turn 3. He's going to be able to sling one down the inside into this corner. That'll be a brave manoeuvre, and nearly finds himself getting chopped off. That might give Arnold a try to fight back. We've got yellow flags in Sector 2, and I think that's going to be a very common theme in this race, but the front 3 managed to stay as they are for now. We've seen a few drivers drop down the field. Jess currently in last place in, as you can see from her view, just atrocious conditions, and Paul Khalifa, all those trying to move up ahead. In fact, Paul nearly getting sandwiched by Newgarden and Khalifa and John, all the drivers around him. We've got one of the cars
round on the exit 4. Yeah. What a mess.
Yeah, Yori's gone round and has got big front wing damage, but out in front it is Kyle, who did manage to hold on to the lead. Riley in second, Estimat still in that third position. We can see Arnold has gained a place. O'Keefe's managed to go up 6 places, as has Iceman. So great starts from those 2 drivers, and Iceman looking very feisty. We've got Pete trying to get past Crazy Flying Rob, who I believe is still an AI car, and in fact they're heading straight into the pit lane.
Yes, I saw when we went into turn 3 for the first time, Pete and teammate, or speed teammate at least, Newgarden, they made contacts. I think Pete must have had a bit of damage from that, from the early pit stop.
Yeah,
we did see this a couple of times used last season as a tactical thing, pitting on lap 1, get one stop out of the way. But I think that is for a genuine wing change as Pete will drop to 17th.
Yeah, indeed. Apologies for the timing information on the left-hand side. It does seem to be going a bit crazy at the moment. New game and all that, but it is still Kyle who is in the lead of the race with Riley behind him. So, yeah, quite a few drivers you can see there having to pick. Pete, MK, Yuri, Iceman, Luke and Newgarden all having to come into the pits at the end of lap 1. But because there's 2 compulsory pit stops, definitely not out of things at the moment. So Kyle still in the lead. Riley, huge moment from Riley. My goodness, he's done well to hold on to it there, but gets passed by Estimat, and Arnold finds a way through as well.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought up the timing screen problem as well, because I had Jess leading the race for a second or two. But as you say, good save from Riley. He's so desperate to keep us on the track to try and prove a point to the team leaders as he follows Arnold round with the turn 1. He's got Bill very close behind him in Prask. Last season, raced in 3 or 4 races. He also infamously had part of his front wing come off and punch a Louis Delatraz in the charity race, and he wasn't the most popular man in the paddock, let me tell you that, for a little while.
Yeah, it's fair to say Louis Delatraz had a bit of bad luck in the few races that he did here at Jacob Car. We've got some battles further down the field then that we're seeing. Crazy Flying Rob's managed to get back in as he tries to catch up with those ahead. He's now in 10th place. He's got Paul all over the back of him, who's actually got a good run. In fact, I'm not sure Crazy Flying Rob has been able to regain control of his car yet, and that might be why Paul has had such a straightforward job overtaking him there round the outside into turn 4. And there is it's not a dry line, it's a drier line appearing on the circuit. It is by no means dry, and now that Kyle up in front, he's about to start lap 4. Now that Riley's made that mistake, he just seems to be enjoying himself at the front. Nearly 2.5 seconds at the end of lap 3. Supreme start from him. You can see fastest lap of the race, 1:17.267. That just shows you how wet it was when you think about the qualifying times. We were seeing 1:0 minute 5s, and a few drivers are invalidated. 1:0 minute 4.
Steve Matt's enjoying himself as well in P2, isn't he? He's left the league. He did have a full-time seat in Season 1 before he had to leave the league and then come back, and now he's, like all the others, hoping for a race seat. Going well, trying to hold Arnold behind him. Of course, Arnold last season was the regular season champion, and then had a 29-point swing and lost it all, didn't even make the championship 5, which shows anything can happen.
Yeah, going into the playoff rounds, pretty much anyone can still have a chance of winning the championship. That is one of the great things about Jacko Car. You've got Arnold all over the back of SD Mats, but you can just see from this onboard view, pretty much no view.
You can see.
Yeah, I was going to say, there is pretty much no view. He's really struggling. That's the thing, sometimes you struggle to try and get out, as he nearly loses it at the same point as Riley did. Riley, unfortunately for him, not close enough to take advantage of that, but that gives SD Max a bit of freedom to maybe just pull away because he was starting to feel the pressure here. But the leader's now coming onto lap 5 of the race. Kyle regaining the fastest lap off of J. Luke, who had taken it, but he's a long way down the field. In 17th is Luke. He's now trying to get past MK Bourne for 16th position. They're going to be fighting hard indeed throughout the race and hoping that this weather maybe dries off and they get a chance to make their way up for the field and do their second compulsory pit stop to change to intermediate tyres. But at the moment it looks like we're perhaps nearer to a safety car coming out than we are to the intermediate tyres being used. Kyle still leading then, 3.4 seconds. The main battle now is going to be this one for second place. Arnold not out of touch as SD Max, but that slight mistake has allowed Riley to just close up to the back of him, and all these drivers have managed to get away from Bazza, who's got Bill for company now.
Yeah, I was also looking at the battle for 8th, and as I say that, Khalifa overtakes Risky and does it, so Paul will be looking to catch up and follow Khalifa through on that. Risky's struggling in these conditions.
Yeah, I'm trying to see. No, he hasn't got any damage. Obviously, in these conditions, having any damage to the car, much worse than it is in the dry conditions. You really need the downforce of the car working to keep you on the circuit around here. And again, just getting towards that curve as we do have a safety car. And looking around all the cars, that might just be for the weather. I've seen it happen before on F1 games.
Yep. Oh,
That is how bad it is. So this at least gives a few of these drivers who had problems at the start, and we're actually seeing a few more head towards the pits. Paul now taking advantage of that. He's going into the pits, as is Risky, Khalifa, John, Jess making their way into the pits. We've seen a few drivers get a few penalties, but I think in these conditions, the safety car might actually be quicker than the F1 cars.
yeah. Jesus, have you been on board with any of the drivers yet? It's awful. It's worse than what it was when we started.
Yeah, and that is why the Codemaster stewards have decided that they really do need to get this safety car out. And this, for however long the rain's going to last, that safety car will be staying out. And usually, by the time it comes in, it's heading towards intermediate conditions. So, a bit like the real F1, wouldn't surprise me if when the safety car peels into the pits, we see a few drivers follow it. But Kyle in the lead, he was doing a good job as well, actually managing to stay away from the field. Does he decide to come into the pits, get another fresh set of wet tyres on? Indeed he does. Estimat's follow him, Arnold, Riley, I think pretty much everyone there is going to dive into the pits, get that one stop done. In fact, no, Bazza, he's heading out. He wants a bit of glory. He wants to lead this race. Bazza is going to be then taking the lead of this race.
Bazza, you can't even see turn one.
Yeah, it is
from all the way back up by the pit wall, you cannot see turn one from onboard Bazza.
And you can just see here, you can just make out the Pirelli side as he comes through turn one.
Yeah.
That is how wet it is. And hopefully, if he's able to see the safety car at the top of this hill, you can just see it parked over towards the side. Need to chuck the anchors on, and they probably could do with anchors because it's more like sailing conditions than it is driving. But the likes of the safety car are going to be guiding them around this circuit. This is just... The only other time I've seen the weather this bad has been when it was chosen to be this bad. So well done for Codemasters for making it come up a bit more often. It's not ideal for the drivers, but it definitely sorts out the best of the best in conditions like this. Bazza will be leading, but he hasn't pitted. If we do go through the pit stops that everyone has done, he's the only one that hasn't pitted. Everyone else has done one pit stop.
Yeah, that race you're referring to, was that the One Hub Germany race, the charity race they did?
Yes, I was on intermediate tyres in that because I forgot to change the thing. And if I hadn't been so bad, I'd have been near the lead when everyone else came in. And that's why I think maybe towards the end of this safety car period, you need to be talking to Jeff and asking what the weather is like. Because if you're careful with the speed of the safety car, on intermediates you can still catch the field up. But it doesn't look like it's getting lighter anytime soon.
So it could be worth everybody making their second pit, but potentially putting inters on and just taking the gamble.
Maybe. Will we
just
see anyone
staying out? Maybe, I don't know.
Will we see anyone be brave enough? Depends if the rain is going to die down at any point, because if it comes forward, as you can see, Bazza's even having to get out of the way of the safety car there because of the spray that Mercedes AMG is kicking up, and that is nothing compared to what these wet Formula 1 tyres kick up. I think it's something like each tyre can display something like 50 litres of water a minute. So if you're right at the back of the queue, and at the moment MK Bourne's just catching up to that, he's driving through like a wall of water. There are a few dry tyre tracks, which I'm using as hope that maybe, just maybe, it might be drying up at some point in this race. But it's fair to say, if you want to show off your talent and skills, there's not much better conditions for showing off pure raw car control than this.
Yep, and the team leaders, I think a few of them would like a gambler as well. Somebody like a risky racer or an OKK, put the inters on, see what you can do with that, bag yourself a seat in the draft.
Ooh, and as I was actually
somebody's off, Crazy Flying Rob is off the track at turn 4.
Yeah, I was just on board with it then.
P12.
I think it's given Risky a penalty, and I think it was more just Crazy Flying Bob just didn't see Risky brake because it was that close to the back of him, and ended up thankfully just avoiding him at the last minute and not getting any damage. So he'll be glad about that. That time he's got some big damage. But MK Bourne's out. MK Bourne and Iceman are out of the race, and I think that's just cars slowing down, and they're not able to see it. It's that bad out there. So
I was on board with MK Bourne there. It was the car in front of Crazy Flying Rob, which I think was J-Luke at the time. They braked to avoid the car in front of them, and MK Bourne just went straight into the back of Crazy Flying Rob.
Yeah, and in these conditions, there's no...
Nobody's fault. It's just so dark.
Yeah, crazy flying Rob obviously is having to come into the pits because of the damaged front wing, so he'll be coming back out in last place and hoping that the safety car stays out long enough to allow him to catch up to the rest of the field, and I think it's pretty safe to say it will do. If this was real life by now, we'd have seen a red flag.
Yeah. 100%. But did Codemasters not implement a red flag a few years ago? Or was that just me thinking things?
I think I remember on the PS3, I remember them introducing red flags because I just spent about 2 hours trying to cause one.
Mr. John's out. He's just gone straight into the back of Paul McGuinness in comical fashion.
I mean, I might start tweeting Codemasters and saying, for conditions like this, you need to add a red flag and just let everyone start again, because
yeah,
this is getting... We've had 4 retirements just purely because you can't see the car in front braking, and Paul, he's going to have to dive into the pits because he's got big front wing damage. Safety car in this lap, and maybe he has got a tiny bit lighter, or maybe I'm just clutching at straws here, but that's a nightmare for Paul and Crazy Flying Rob.
I'd agree with you, that is definitely lighter.
Ooh,
you can now see, I'm on board with Rob, you can see to the end of turn 4.
That's much better than it was earlier on, so we'll have to see what happens here. Bazza now effectively the safety car. He doesn't want to catch it up nearly as Bottas nearly did way back at the Austrian Grand Prix, round 1 of the season, but he has gone for it now. Hopefully they've all got the tyres up to temperature, otherwise this could be a very interesting first couple of corners. But Bazza is away, Kyle following him then. Remember, Kyle's got much fresher tyres. Bazza's gone way off the circuit. Maybe them wets beginning to wear out. Someone else has got off as well, I think, and that is Bill, who's lost it on the start-finish straight, but thankfully for him, able to continue. Khalifa looking for a dive down the inside towards turn 1. Gets their position done cleanly. Bill might find himself dropping back. In fact, nearly tries to come back and have a go at Khalifa, but not able to do so. Thankfully for Bill, he was able to continue, and you can't say that for John, Iceman, Newgarden and MK Bourne, all out of this race, but Bazza still holding on to the lead now. Lap 10 out of 36. Hopefully we'll have 27 laps remaining of pure, flat-out racing action. Let's not forget, we'll have a look at the pit stops now, because a few drivers did have to pit at that point. In fact, Paul decided to stay out in the end. Bob's the only driver who doesn't have to pit, but I'm not quite sure them wets will last towards the end, as we've seen a move further down the field, and that is Yuri getting past Pete for 10th place. Pete able to fight back though. He's got the inside line for turn 6, but fair play to Yuri. There's good trust between those two in the same eSports stable, and safety car again.
Is that for the weather yet again? Because I think it got darker.
I can't see anyone off track, so either they're going very heavy, but now we can see Bazza has come into the pits and Kyle as well, and I think quite a few others might decide to head in, but we'll have to see. Now Max, Arnold and Riley have decided to stay out on the circuit, but safety car out once again, and it just looks like it is purely for these weather conditions, so not a lot the drivers can do about that. Just going to have to sit back. All this allows them to save a bit of fuel, but that is sometimes a concern, sort of oddly, in these conditions. You'd expect them to be able to save a bit more fuel, but generally, just because of the wheel spin coming out of the corners, they do end up burning more fuel in these wet conditions, so that shouldn't be a factor now. But Estimat's in the lead. Kyle, importantly, leading out of everyone, has done 2 stops, because if the weather stays like this, that could be crucial. He may not have to pit again.
You're damn right. I'm just thinking, whilst the rain's going on, we should probably talk about the other changes happening in Season 2, if that's okay with you, Luke?
Yeah, definitely. It's a
good idea. Because keep an eye on, make sure nobody spins and crashes off. But last season we did 16 rounds, so that was 10 regular season races, 3 playoff round 1, 2 in playoff round 2, and then a championship race. That now we expand to 17 races, 10 regular season races still, but 3 rounds of 2 races in the playoffs, and then we go to Brazil for the championship 5. The extra race we do there means that we can go to 3 playoff rounds, so every single point becomes even more critical than last season. And you saw how it was at this track actually. Bazza missed out on the playoffs by a single point.
Yeah, it can be so cruel indeed. And we all have, of course, there's a break as well, mid-season after Singapore, that in October. That's the first round of playoff round 2. We've got a few short tracks making an appearance. We've got USA short in playoff round 3, Bahrain playoff round 1, but we've got a double header in Britain around the full length and then the short circuit for round 5 and 6 of the regular season. And I just think these short tracks always add something a bit extra because it's not something the drivers are used to going around, so they won't have the same experience. It won't be second nature to them to go around there.
Yeah, once you get into turn, is it 3 or 4 at Silverstone, and you've got to turn right instead of left, that catches out a few drivers for the first couple of laps. But you do get to see shocks on the short tracks. I mean, if you look at the... he just went into the back of Arnold. If you look at last season's charity race we did for UNICEF, shocks were Khalifa got lapped, and I led the race for 3 laps. So anything can happen, but those 3 short track races, they will be 100% distance, but they should take the same amount of time as a normal 50% race.
Yeah, indeed they should.
That's the idea, anyway.
Yeah, Riley has got front wing damage. Maybe if they end up with weather like this, which could happen, I think, at 2 of them. If it happens at Bahrain, then maybe we know Codemasters need to alter something with the weather system on their game, but maybe it will take a bit longer. Yeah. We're nearly a third of the way through this race. Our second safety car due to the wet conditions, and it is going to be Estimat leading after the first third. Arnold second, Riley in third, Poleman Kyle down in 9th, but he has made his 2 stops, and we have had 5 retirements already. Crazy Flying Bob, John, Iceman, Newgarden and MK Bourne as Riley dives into the pits. Is he going to be able to get it stopped in time? Just about. Heads into the pits, and we hope getting a new foot wing and new tyres on and coming down in last place, but will not have to pit again. And it wouldn't surprise me if we see a few more collisions under the safety car. And as I say that, I think O'Keefe nearly went straight into the back of Kyle.
You see that in the pits there, how Riley served a 5-second penalty before the team worked on the car. That's another rule change coming into Season 2, is that drivers that serve 5-second penalties in the pit lane, they can, if they wish, get them removed upon request of removal to the stewards. A change that was highly requested by a lot of them, and we've listened and we've implemented it for Season 2.
Yeah, definitely. I think we've all seen it in many other leagues where drivers get these 5-second penalties that obviously if they still have to pit, they're not able to get them removed because it messes with the race order, so it's good to see something different happening. And also pretty relevant to having a safety car out on circuit, although we've not got any lapped cars as the safety cars coming in. In Formula 1 we see all the lapped cars overtake the safety car. You've gone for something slightly different, Jacko, after the safety car comes in.
Yeah, so basically now, we saw it a couple of times last season where cars, say you'd have the leader and then second place, but then the third car on track would be a lapped car. What we're doing now is we're telling those lapped cars to get out of the way as soon as possible on that first green flag, on that restart. Once we get into the second lap of green flag racing, they can continue to block the leaders like they have done, like you see in NASCAR. Look at this, everybody's coming into the pits.
Yeah, Estimat's nearly...
Sorry, I was on the wrong camera angle.
Yeah, Estimat's nearly went into the back of the safety car, and that's caused a bit of chaos there. Baz has headed into the pits. Jess has damage as well. We've got a car off the circuit. Who is that? It's risky. He's gone round on the pit straight. That's going to be an enormous accident there. Not sure who collected him, but there's Kyle out, Bill out as well. Wouldn't surprise me if we might see another safety car straight from that. That is the problem with these conditions. Just couldn't see anything in the spray. Once Risky had lost it, he was a passenger, similar to what I think it was Raikkonen in Brazil a couple of years ago, where thankfully everyone missed him. But we're now down to just 11 runners all of a sudden. It's Estimaz in the lead, and that is a shame for Kyle. He was looking really good.
He was. This is turning into a bit of a Jacko Car Classic. It's only a test race.
Yeah,
I see it. Jess will need to pit. She's got front wing damage on that 95 car.
Yeah, thankfully for her, she will have to make another pit stop anyway. But yeah, big front wing damage. I think that might have been on the back of Bazza again. He did go into the pits. Riley made a third pit stop in the end there, so I'm not sure if he got caught up in some more incidents because there was a lot happening.
I think by doing that, he actually avoided the crash on the pit straight. And Pete's loose.
And there's another.
And there's a safety car.
Now, hopefully, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say this is just... There must be like a trigger for the safety car to come out, and we must just be going one side of it every now and then. The safety car comes in, and then we just flip over to the other side and the safety car comes out. So, hopefully by next week...
The dynamic weather is too dynamic. Is that the problem?
Maybe. Sometimes it can be a bit predictable, but here we go. Got a few more drivers coming in. Arnaud, Speedy Racer, O'Keefe. Arnaud just serving that 5-second penalty there. That would have been for a collision under the safety car. Estimatso still staying out on circuit. Baz has got a drive-through penalty for speeding under the safety car. Now they should be used to this safety car conditions. It seems like we've only done about 4 or 5 racing laps. But the laps we have had have been fantastic indeed. Such a shame for those that were involved in that big collision then on the start line. I'm not sure what triggered that. I just caught Risky going sideways, and then by the time I went on board with him, I think it might have been Bill or Kyle heading straight into Risky's stricken car. But 11 runners, Matt, Pete, who's managed to sneak his way up into second, and Khalifa in third as well after invalidating his qualifying lap, showing some just true skill, maybe to just stay in this race at the moment.
Yeah, J. Luke and Paul up there as well, and they both invalidated too. I did say, watch out for those guys coming through from the back. But what is nice to see is last season's top 3, if you will. Pete, Khalifa and Arnold. I know before the pits Arnold was right with them, and those 3, they gave us some tremendous battles, certainly towards the end of the season.